And we are live. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Friday, May 27th, 2022. And this week, we talking all about HomePod rumors, iPhone rumors, because there's always different rumors going around. We're leading up to WWDC, and perhaps a little later in the show, we might talk to an iOS app developer, the developer of the very popular Reddit app Apollo. But for now, I am your host, Luke Filipowicz, and I am joined, as always, by my two lovely co-hosts, Karen Freeman, iMore contributor. How you doing, Karen?
Hello, I'm doing well. How about you?
Not too bad. Excited to be here. And joined by Stephen Warwick, our news editor at iMore. How you doing, Stephen?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
So last week we had another to be continued moment. Right at the end of the show, there was a rumor that
another appendage.
Yeah, another appendage, as Stephen so eloquently put it. But there's a rumor that potentially a new HomePod is going to be coming later this year or maybe early next year. Stephen, what are we hearing about that?
Yeah, so this is from Huoming Chi, very reliable insider, as always, who tweeted right at the end of our show last week that there's a new version of Apple's HomePod coming out possibly in either the fourth quarter of 2022, so December and the 2 months prior, which I've forgotten, October and November, one of those three. And then or the Q1 of 2023, so possibly in the spring. Apple doesn't really release stuff in like December, January, February, so this seems like a kind of a late fall or spring kind of window. But yeah, Apple apparently is going to release a new version of the HomePod. Quote says that there won't be much innovation, there may not be much innovation in terms of hardware design, and goes on to say that smart speakers are undoubtedly one of the essential elements of the home ecosystem, but he thinks Apple is still figuring out how to succeed in this market, which I think is very true. Certainly the very first HomePod, the big one, did not do that well by all accounts. I think it was misunderstood by a lot of people who, it sat in like a really funny place in the market. The HomePod Mini, I absolutely love. I think it's a bit of a triumph, but it sounds like we might be getting a new HomePod of sorts. He doesn't say anything about what kind of HomePod this is, so we don't know if it's a big one, another small one, a medium-sized one. So we can talk about anything we like because it's a nice open-ended rumor, which is always good.
I put it out on our social media and got some responses from our readers. The popular responses were hopefully a screen. One reader wanted like a sound bar kind of thing, and someone else said just better sound quality.
That's interesting. Yeah, the screen is an interesting one because we've heard lots of rumors and rumblings that Apple is at least testing some sort of iPad HomePod kind of hybrid. So yeah, like a HomePod with some, obviously the HomePod currently has a pretty limited sort of touch interface on the top with the volume and it basically like a start stop kind of button. But we've heard that it might be, more like a HomePod with an iPad almost integrated into the HomePod, so possibly running iPad OS with different apps and usable for video calls or surf the internet, or better smart home control than you can get just by talking to Siri, which is what the HomePod currently offers. I think I love the big HomePod. I'm like, we have two. We use it in our our home kind of theater system for entertainment, and think it is absolutely fantastic, especially with the new Apple TV, which has the eARC audio. So we can take an audio source from whatever it is we're watching, not just the Apple TV, and pipe that to the HomePod. It's really tremendous. So a new HomePod is very exciting, and I guess it's sort of more exciting that we've no idea what this could be. I don't think it'll be like an update to the HomePod Mini. I mean, it might be, but it seems more likely to be a different form factor. And because Huo says there won't be much innovation in the hardware design, it might be like a very slightly tweaked, slightly bigger, slightly smaller, or back to the old HomePod with a sort of an audio upgrade or things like that. So yeah, very, very exciting, very interesting, but certainly quite a nebulous rumor at this stage.
Yeah, I'm curious that like there's no, I mean, I obviously it could just be maybe closed sources that don't know, or perhaps it's just the way that's going to be. But it'd be weird. It'd be a little weird to me if they just kind of relaunched the original HomePod with like a few minor updates, because
Right.
Yeah.
because the
I feel
original
like it has to
HomePod
be
didn't do very well.
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't make any sense.
right.
And so you would,
I feel like it's got to be kind of a ground up overhaul.
yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, I wouldn't necessarily say completely ground up, but you think it's got to have like some new, like something new about it to attract people. And perhaps, honestly, I don't know how this would be possible because we know Apple, but like a little bit of a cheaper price would probably go a long way too, because
Yeah.
it was fairly expensive for what it was,
I think
especially
like
like
a HomePod Medium sort of. So the
HomePod
Mini
Medium.
is great. Yeah, you got the HomePod Mini Max, and then just the regular HomePod in the middle. The HomePod Mini is fantastic. It packs like so much punch, but for a speaker the size of like a baseball, it like $99 is a lot. So, but I think there's probably a market for slightly bigger and slightly more expensive, so cheaper than the old original HomePod, which was what,
I think it,
$329,
yeah,
Yeah.
or
$49 when it
yeah, I
came
think
out.
it was three. I think it was 350 when it came out.
And
I'd
then
have to
it
double check
was
that. But
they put it down to 279, and even then people were buying HomePods and they were still getting serial numbers from the original like release run from when the HomePod was first made and came off the production line in, I guess, 2018, I think it was, and they were like full of dust and stuff because they'd just been sat in warehouses or factories or wherever it was for however long. So I think up from the Mini, because the Mini is good, but in terms of sound quality, there's plenty of headroom.
yeah,
I,
totally.
I like the idea of adding a screen to it, and I don't think it would necessarily be like an iPad or use iPad OS. I'm thinking of something totally different. Like I think of how I use my HomePod Mini, which is 99% of the time I'm using it either to ask the weather or to add something to my shopping list. And I'm just thinking like of a smart screen that's integrated in directly into the device. So if I say, hey, you know who, add eggs to my shopping list, and then it would suddenly the screen would show up where I would see it being added to my list. Or if I would say, hey, you know who, what's the weather today, then like an actual screen weather report would show up on the screen.
Yeah.
And the default could be something like it
Just
could
the
be
now
like a
playing
montage of
from
photographs
Apple Music or something,
or
even
now
if you're-
playing.
yeah.
Yeah. Or it just like it would change to whatever you were doing. Like if you're listening to music, it would be the album cover art. If you're not doing anything, it could just be like a montage of photos from your photo library, or it could be like ongoing like time and weather kind of thing. Like people have little devices that have screens like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. So go on, Luke. I was just going to say that there is room in the market, and I think it's above the HomePod Mini. I don't think we're going to get anything cheaper. Certainly not smaller. So not cheaper than the HomePod Mini, unless there's like a HomePod Mini 2, like a refresh, like Karen, your reader said about updated sound quality. I would love to see Apple keep doing more with the biggest thing for me is the communication between HomePods. I literally yesterday was listening to just a playlist in the kitchen, and I just wanted to walk into the office and keep listening to that on a different HomePod. But when I said the magic, by the way, Karen didn't like forget what Siri's name was. She said, "Hey, you know who," so that all of our devices don't start barking on the podcast. So you say the magic words and continue this in the office, and Siri just sort of like freaked out and died a bit of a death. And so there's still for me some real like reliability and integration stuff that I would love to see fixed. So if we can have like a refreshed HomePod Mini that would give me a little bit of even the handoff feature, I find is a little, sometimes it works really well, but other times I'll be in bed like on my phone and the HomePod Mini is on the nightstand probably like a yard away, and my phone will start like vibrating in my hand because it thinks it can sense the HomePod close by, and I'm not even I'm not even close. So maybe room for a HomePod Mini too, but I think the room in the HomePod market is up and above the Mini, both in terms of price and form factor, sound, features, that sort of thing. Soundbar
still
also
like,
really interesting.
Like under 250 though. Like there's a lot of space in between 100 and 350.
Yeah. I think.
In between.
Yeah, I definitely agree that like it's above the HomePod Mini, and I also have I only have one because I have a small apartment. I don't need much more than one, but I have one that's my main like YouTube device, also my main cooking timer. This is what I set all my cooking timers on when I'm making dinner. But like, it's my main like it's kind of replaced my at home. I used to use like Bluetooth speakers at home, right, when I was like listening to music, cleaning the house or whatever, but it's like completely replaced that. Like it sits in the living room, but if I turn it up, I can hear my jams throughout my entire living room. You know, I have a small apartment, so it's not that big of a deal, but like I feel like, you know, for the price, I think the HomePod Mini is like in a decent spot. Like it could be maybe like, you know, 10 to 20 cheaper, and then it would be even better. But like I think it's kind of like it kind of hits a nice spot. It's not like a crazy investment, but you're still getting like I was surprised that like there's definitely room for the sound quality to be better, and there are, you know, plenty of speakers that do better sound quality, but for like for how small it is, the amount it can put out, and like the bass quality on small speakers is usually like that's the thing that usually separates small speakers from bigger speakers, is like you just, even with really good sound quality, you just can't get the woofers that you need to really kind of give you that boom and bass. And like it's not like the HomePod Mini is gonna blow you away with bass, but it's like very good for the size of a speaker. It's like very solid bass performance. So I really like the HomePod Mini. I could be swayed to getting a bigger HomePod and then perhaps using it with my Apple TV as a speaker and things like that. But it can't be, you know, it can't be north of like $300.
Especially when you need two to fully, certainly with an Apple TV,
right?
you need the stereo. That's what we have, and it's, you know, we got very fortunate that I met my wife at Apple, so we both used to work there. So the first HomePod we had was my wife's one, bought an employee discount, and the second one was through a friend who used to work at the store. So we did not pay full price, and that was discount on the discounted $279 price. So we did not pay full price for either of our HomePods, and we wouldn't you're talking $700 for a 2-speaker audio system. So it is. I had a really, really important point to make, and it has completely escaped me in the time I told that anecdote. So go on back round, and I will see if I remember what it was. It was about the HomePod. That's what it was. The HomePod Mini. My biggest draw with the HomePod Mini is you need two to fully recognize the sound potential, because once you get them in stereo, they sound incredible. You could even use that for watching movies on like a MacBook or an iMac or even an iPad, and it sounds brilliant. But it always just, you know, when it's just the one, it always felt a little bit limited. So I would probably rather pay $150 for a slightly bigger speaker that I don't have to buy two to use to get the full potential out of it. That was the only thing for the kind of the biggest gripe for me that I thought held the HomePod Mini back.
So are you saying you would prefer like a sound bar style?
Yeah, not just in terms of the form factor, but what happened for me was I got two HomePods. I did the review for iMore and got two HomePods, and I used them in stereo for a good while. And when you sit between the two of those at kind of the right distance, the right place, they sound brilliant. And once I'd sort of done away with my review setup, gave one to my wife, threw in the kitchen, and now I only have one. I'm like, I miss the other HomePod. So not necessarily in terms of the form factor for videos and stuff like that, but just something a bit bigger, so that I was like, this speaker can do it all by itself. Whereas for me, the HomePod Mini always works best in that two pairing kind of setup and combination. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But a soundbar is also a really interesting one.
That's what I
had a lot of success with the Ray and the Arc and stuff.
That's what I would be most excited for. And I understand that, like, if it's actually a full-on soundbar as well as a HomePod, then it would probably actually push the price up. And, you know, like $300 to $400 for a very decent soundbar is not a bad deal if you're using it. But that's one that I always thought would be really, really interesting, is like a soundbar HomePod kind of mix.
Because lots of sound, the most recent, I think it's the Ray that came out from Sonos. Ray? Yeah, it's not the Arc, it's the Ray that has AirPlay, and it has like Sonos's kind of Siri equivalent, and it's a soundbar. So there's obviously a market for people who want that sort of kind of price point and functionality. So, and
it's $349.
Yes,
so it's about what the original HomePod was originally.
And because it's a soundbar with that elongated form factor, you only have to buy one, which again was a criticism I have of the big HomePod as well.
Yeah, and then also, like, if it's just a soundbar as well as a HomePod, you don't have to like have an Apple TV to use it with your regular TV. Just plug it into your TV, and then boom, you have great sound and kind of the advantage of a soundbar. And I love soundbars and just in general. Like, I think like most TV speakers these days are pretty bad. Like they're not really meant to be great. Most TV speakers are meant to be hooked up to some sort of external sound system, and kind of the best and cheapest way to kind of get like a decent sound out of your TV is to pick up an okay soundbar. So I think like it's really not a bad call, I think, if Apple went that way. Unfortunately, it seems as this rumor stands, it doesn't seem like that's what's going to be coming down the pipeline. But who knows? I also liked the idea. I think there was a rumor, this might have just been a concept at one point that we covered, but the idea of like a HomePod / Apple TV hybrid, because why do you really need an Apple TV box if you just need especially since HomePod already runs kind of a modified version of tvOS anyways, like that's what it actually runs on. And you update through your iPhone or whatever, but I feel like it definitely wouldn't be impossible to somehow mix the two. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I think that might be an interesting proposition. But also give the Apple TV a decent update. It hasn't really had a full on update. I mean, it got its like little 4K bump that it got like a year ago or whatever, which it was 4K before, but it had a slightly bigger storage and things like that.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
process and stuff.
Yeah, the new Siri remote, which was needed. But yeah, I feel like it would breathe new life into like two of their lines almost a little bit. So it would be interesting. That'd be an interesting proposition too. I would probably like look at that, because I keep waffling back and forth. I still have the old like 1080p Apple TV. So like the Apple TV 4, I believe, the fourth generation. And I just like, even though I have a 4K TV and everything, it's just like, I can't really bring myself to buy the 4K one, because it's like, other than 4K, it's not really giving me much else. And so it's like, I get that 4K is nice, but like, it's not like 1080p looks horrible or anything. It's not like I can't watch a movie when I need to. And, my Netflix and stuff is all hooked up through my TV anyway. So I watch that in 4K regardless. So I would kind of breathe new life. I feel like if the Apple TV, comes in to its own and kind of surprises me, or like gives us something really exciting, if it comes out with a new model, something like this would actually probably maybe push me to finally upgrade mine. And I'm sure that there are a few other people out there too who probably just have been sitting on their 1080p's for a while, just because like, other than 4K, what does the new one really get you? Not really that much, a bit more storage.
Yeah.
But before we continue, we're going to move on to a sponsor of ours, and Steven's going to tell us all about it.
Thank you, Luke. Today's iMore show is brought to you by Alto. Do you have an account with Coinbase, or are you thinking of opening one? Do you own any Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, or any other cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency might represent the future of money. It's one of the most exciting investment opportunities to come around for some time. But what about taxes? With an Alto crypto IRA, you can trade Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and avoid or defer the taxes. Get into investing in crypto and do it in a tax-advantaged retirement account. Alto's crypto IRA is the easy way to get crypto into an IRA. You can trade all you want without a tax headache, create an account in just a few minutes, and invest with as little as $10. It also has industry-leading security and multiple ways to fund your account. Ready to take your investments to the next level? Diversify like the pros and trade without tax headaches. Open an Alto crypto IRA with as little as just $10. Just go to altoira.com/iMore. That's ALTOIRA.com/iMore. Start investing in cryptocurrency today. Go to altoira.com/iMore.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. And thank you, Alto, for sponsoring the iMore show. Moving on from the HomePod, another rumor coming from Quo, that the AirPods Pro 2 are entering mass production. Apparently they don't have USB-C though. Is that what we're hearing, Stephen?
Yeah, I think this is kind of expected. We heard, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, kind of the bombshell rumor that the iPhone may go to USB-C next year. And then we heard that lots of the accessories that go with the iPhone and other devices, your Magic Mice, keyboards, trackpads, all that sort of thing, including the AirPods, would also make the switch, because I think at that point, once the iPhone ships with USB-C, it would certainly make sense to bring everything over to that charging standard. So yeah, Wominchi is reporting that these are ready to go into production in the second half of 2022. Now, that could be, it's already May, and that could be as early as July, which, this could be a release in certainly not WWDC time, but around the next iPhone or in one of the later fall events that we're probably expecting. Or I think the first AirPods Pro came just as a press release back in late 2019. So you never know. But yeah, we don't have anything on the features apart from the lack of USB-C, which I think makes sense. Once I think the next set of AirPods, kind of the next round of AirPods, whatever that will be, the regular and the Pro, it would make sense to make the switch then. I don't think they would do it before they do the iPhone, because that would, I think, just be kind of chaos. But yeah, I'm trying to sort of recall what we've heard about the AirPods Pro. I think we're sort of expecting like better tracking features, certainly improved audio. I believe Roaming Chi has previously reported that the next AirPods Pro might support lossless audio, which is obviously quite a big deal. Over current Bluetooth standards, I don't think that's like physically possible. So that would be a pretty intense upgrade in terms of audio quality. So, obviously with Apple Music, we have the AirPods Pro and 3. They all support Dolby Atmos and things like that. But we also have the lossless audio and the Apple Masters and all that sort of thing. So that would be a pretty big kind of audio step up. And the other one is a Find My charging case, which I guess, we already have Find My AirPods to a degree. So maybe he's sort of referring to something closer to what we have with AirTags, which is, a very kind of, close proximity thing for like when your AirPods are in the sofa, not just like which bar did I leave them in or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yeah, AirPods Pro 2, bit of a mystery, but possibly on the way very, very soon.
I think the other thing we've heard multiple times from different sources over time about AirPods 2 is that they're likely, or at least they're possibly getting rid of like the stem design, and they're going to be a more in-ear kind of like something like you might see with the Jabra Elites, things like that.
Yeah, well, there's like
the Sony,
Buds or
the Surface Buds or the Sony they have Sony has terrible names. WXM 1003 or whatever they call them. The
WD-40. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. I'm a big reason why I went with the AirPods 3 when I finally got around to jumping into the AirPods world instead of AirPods Pro is because like I'm not a big fan of having tips in my ears. They just really, especially after wearing them for a while, they just really hurt. And I know that like everyone says, well, you got to get foam tips. Foam tips are better if you get like third-party foam tips, which I realize is an option out there, and all the power to the people who want to do it. But I just haven't really wanted to jump on that train yet. And I love the AirPods 3. They just kind of sit in my ear. I can wear them for literally all day and it doesn't matter. But I would be interested to see if it is like a little more secure in the ear and it's not just the tip going in. Like obviously there's still going to be a tip that goes into your ear, but like if it's not just the tip, it might reduce some of the pressure that it puts on because it's like more supported in your ear rather than not. Because I have found like I've used Jabras in the past and I've liked them quite a bit. Like eventually they will, make my ears sore if I wear them forever. But I feel like the couple times I've tried AirPods Pro, in the past, I find that like it really doesn't take that long for them to start kind of like wearing on my ears. Whereas the Jabras I could wear for like a few hours before I really felt any fatigue. So I'd be interested to see if that would make a big difference for me. I'm not sure. I've
never minded the pain, but for me, the air, I would say that it doesn't hurt is what I'm trying to say. I like the pain. They don't hurt me so much, but the air pressure for me, when I put stuff in like that, it's like sitting in a perpetually landing aeroplane where like my ears can never quite get the pressure that they need to be, so I can actually hear what's coming out of the speakers. The thing I would say that's really interesting about this, I've had the chance to test quite a few different wireless headphones since when AirPods first came out. They weren't obviously the first wireless earbuds, but they were kind of, I think, in the way that Apple often does, kind of the first good viable mainstream option. And certainly if you're kind of vested in the ecosystem, now the market is full of really excellent wireless earbuds, true wireless earbuds with noise cancelling that do not cost a lot of money. I reviewed Nothing's Ear One buds, and they're not perfect. It's the first product the company has ever made, but for $99, now usually less thanks to sales and stuff, they are incredible. In some ways, I prefer them over AirPods. They've got really fantastic touch controls. You can get about, I think, 7 or 8 different functionalities, including a sliding volume sensor, single taps, double taps, triple taps, and in-ear detection, and active noise cancellation with a transparency mode, all for less than $100. So whatever Apple is planning to do with AirPods Pro 2, the market is much more challenging, I think, than it was previously. And you're totally right. Ditching the stems is another interesting one we've heard. Personally, I prefer the stemmed stuff to not the stems, but I think that's you kind of just getting into subjective sort of design kind of preferences for a lot of people at that point.
I agree with you. The market has changed quite a bit because over that period of time, I've tested a number of wireless earbuds, and the difference in quality between even 3-4 years ago and now is vast. And we're talking well under $100. Brands like Earfun and Tribit that you can get on Amazon. They're very inexpensive, and they're putting out some very nice earbuds right now. So it's, Apple's going to be hard pressed to get people to pay, over $200 for wireless earbuds nowadays.
Yeah, and I mean, I would suspect the AirPods Pro 2 probably won't come with a price decrease. Even though I agree with you that like they are quite expensive compared to the others in the market. But Apple is definitely relying on their orchard, that ecosystem, the Apple orchard that I'm not calling it a wall garden anymore, by the way. It's the Apple orchard. I'm making the change right now. It's the Apple orchard because it makes more sense and it's a pun and I love it.
Does it still have walls? Or can you get out? Is that what's the...
It has a fancy...
Still has walls.
It has
a fence you can see through.
It has a gate, a nice fence and a gate. It's wood. It's made out of cedar. It's beautiful. It smells really nice in the rain.
I mean, that's really the only thing Apple has now over these other brands is that easy switching between devices. Because I will say, of all the earbuds that I have that are great, the thing that annoys me the most about them is switching between devices.
And even Apple's Beats products, some of them now ship with that. Is it the Beats Studio Buds? They have fast pair and switch and are cheaper than, not new, cheaper than AirPods Pro, but like if the AirPods Pro were new, they would be cheaper, more colors, better for exercise. So yeah, the competition is decidedly more intense than it was earlier. So
I will say this. Sorry, Karen, I'll just quickly jump in.
I was just going to say, if I were going to buy earbuds right now, I would buy the Beats Fit Pro because they have those little wingtips that fit nicely in the cartilage of your ear, and they come in such cute colors. So, and they have the switching between devices. So I would go for that over the AirPods Pro.
Yeah.
I will say in my experience of using, I don't have a pair of AirPods Pro myself, but I've used them fairly often with borrowing them and things and trying them out. And same with the AirPods Max. I don't have my own pair because they're ludicrously expensive, but I borrowed a friend's for a while. I will say one thing that Apple does, and it's not necessarily, it's not maybe the biggest feature of an ANC headphone, but one thing that Apple I still think is kind of leading the pack on is their transparency mode is really good. Like I find out of everything I've tested, their transparency mode, especially in the AirPods Max specifically, but even in the AirPods Pro for what they are, I find that the transparency mode is just miles ahead of some of the other stuff. Like even from other brands like the Sony, if you're comparing the AirPods Max to, the Sony over-the-ear cans, whichever, once again, weird names, XM1005 or whatever it is, the new ones that just came out, or even the ones before that were very, very popular, they're very good headphones, but like the transparency mode on AirPods Max is just like miles better. So that is one thing that they do well. Is it the most important thing? I don't know. That's up to you, obviously. But yeah, that's one thing I've noticed with AirPods in my experience and using different headphones is that the transparency mode is quite noticeably better at doing what it does. And especially I find on like some of the cheaper brands too, like if you are comparing some of the cheaper ANC earbuds to AirPods, their transparency modes I find are quite lacking.
Even with Nothing's buds, I think I remember not that I wear buds very often while I'm working, but like a keyboard in transparency mode, for instance, I have a mechanical gaming keyboard. It was like amplifying like that, so not like painful levels, but you're like, oh, this is a bit. Yeah, I totally agree, Luke. It's something I think the lower end stuff maybe hasn't kind of cracked quite as well. The other thing, I think for me, when you buy an AirPods Pro, for me, beyond the noise cancelling, the most important feature has to be the audio quality. And if the rumors about the lossless audio are true, then all of the competition conversation, I think, is basically redundant, because I don't think there are any currently wireless earbuds on the market that offer lossless audio. I think Qualcomm very recently, like in March, announced that it had cracked lossless audio wirelessly. So I think it makes sense to assume Apple has something similar probably in the pipeline. So if they do
I
support
think
lossless audio.
I think lossless audio is probably the only thing that's going to get people excited about new
Yeah.
AirPods Pro. The only other thing that would get people excited would be like a significant price drop. Like it would have to be under 200.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
at one,
which
The
I
thing
don't
with
see.
lossless,
Yeah.
the thing with lossless audio is that it's still somewhat niche. I mean, it's like it's an audiophile thing. The average person on the street doesn't know what lossless audio means.
Well, certainly
That's
couldn't tell the
true.
difference if you played them. Yeah.
That's true. But on top of that,
Sure. But I mean, if you just ask a random person walking down the street, are you excited about lossless audio? They'd be like, what are you talking about?
yeah. And to add to that, Karen, the other thing too is if Apple comes out and they might be one of the first, I don't know if they will be the first, but if they might be one of the first to include some sort of lossless audio in a, primarily Bluetooth. Apple kind of does its own thing too. It's not just Bluetooth, but it does use Bluetooth. That would be pretty spectacular. But then the thing is that technology's out there. And like we said, Qualcomm has found a way to apparently do it. So eventually that just means it's going to come to everything anyways, right? Like all those other brands like Sony and Bose and stuff will eventually, they'll jump on their next version. So, and if we go by history, typically their stuff tends to be a bit cheaper because Apple kind of charges a premium for its orchard, for access to the beautiful apple orchard. So,
but
I
think that's really the only way to go. I mean, what features are missing?
I think activity tracking is an interesting one. We've seen a lot of patents and some rumors about earbuds that could measure your heart rate or your temperature or track your motion. So like, obviously that's hard because you also have Apple Watch, which is a great way to track kind of most of those things anyway. So, but yeah, certainly AirPods that were more adept at, like I said, the temperature, the heart rate, that sort of thing, or the motion. If you're bouncing, having AirPods in your ears that could measure that. I'm sure there's kind of room to spare in there. So that would be another interesting one, especially if you could use them in tandem with, like an iPhone and a watch for like the ultimate sort of, or even just the watch for like the Trinity or the duo of audio of fitness tracking. That would be something I'd be really interested in.
That would be a really cool sort of Apple synergy to really encourage people to stay in that orchard.
Yeah, totally. And thank you for using Orchard. I appreciate the help getting it caught on. Before we continue, Karen, why don't you tell us about our second sponsor?
Yes, Mint Mobile. After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when you hear that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, you might think, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, you'll see it all makes sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet, sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/more. That's mintmobile.com/more. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/more.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you, Mint Mobile, for sponsoring the show. And thank you, Ryan Reynolds, just because you own Mint Mobile.
Had to work that in somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I will every time. I know Ryan doesn't even know
until he comes on the show. Yeah.
Until Ryan Reynolds comes on the iMore show to talk about, I don't know what, I guess Mint Mobile.
Yeah. I don't know. You're welcome anytime, Ryan. Just
Ryan,
saying, if you're listening, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, hit me up, Ryan, and we can make it happen.
No, hit me up.
Yeah, hit everybody up. Just make our days a little brighter. Interesting rumor about the iPhone 14 Pro is that it may have a refresh mode for an always on display.
Yeah, speaking of a little brighter, this is a little dimmer in terms of the iPhone 14's display. We got the ProMotion display with the iPhone last year, which has enabled 120 hertz, the variable refresh rate, but it doesn't go all the way down. I believe 10 hertz is the floor for the iPhone 13 Pro, which obviously it's great for saving battery, but it's not quite the always on kind of levels of refresh that you would need. But yeah, Ross Young, DSCC, a very reliable leaker, quite new on the scene, but has an excellent track record of predicting certainly display leaks, changes, upgrades, that sort of thing, is expecting the iPhone 14 Pro to have a similar refreshing screen to the one it does currently, but with a 1 hertz display mode that could pave the way for an always-on display like we have now in the Apple Watch, which I think is pretty exciting. Maybe.
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit more about like what does that mean? A 1 hertz refresh rate.
Basically, the refresh rate of the screen is kind of how many. I don't know how to really explain it in layman's term. I'm not sure I would get it myself to do it. It's basically how many times the screen refreshes, which sounds redundant, right? So the old iPhone 12 was 60 hertz, and now we have the 13 Pro, which is 120 hertz. So basically, your screen's updating what is on the screen twice as fast as it was with the old phone. So it makes
so you get less stuttering, it's more smooth.
Everything looks smooth and stuff like that.
So then, what is the 1 hertz?
The variable refresh rate that tones that right down. So right now, your iPhone can change refresh rates. It'll drop, for instance, if you stop scrolling and you're just reading something to save battery. And if it drops all the way down to 1 hertz, it's basically like when the Apple Watch is in its always on display, because it's just showing your watch face and your lock screen. So it doesn't need to refresh as much because, there's nothing animated or moving on the screen. So yeah, the 1 hertz refresh rate, at the very least, it could save battery because your phone might drop down to 1 hertz if you're in your pocket or something like that. Or if you're just reading an article and you're not scrolling through and stuff like that. But it also could pave the way for an always on display, which I don't know how much of a market that would be. It makes much sense on the watch because it's on your wrist. So at any time you might go, oh, what time is it? And you're looking at your watch right there. But your phone, it goes into your pocket or your handbag or the glove compartment of your car or whatever. So whilst the display could always be on, I don't know if it would make sense that you would always want to look at it as much as you might a watch. So maybe
I would
a toggle feature.
I could see use for that. While I'm working, I just have it sitting on a stand.
Yeah, so especially for notifications as well, because it can often be frustrating to your phone's gone off right when you want to look at it or something, and you have to raise to wake or tap it or
right, or if you're cooking and you have a recipe on the screen.
Yeah, I'm curious what the always on portion would be, because I know on some other devices in the past, it's not like your full screen. It's it'll go to the always on when you're not using your phone or whatever, but it mostly just shows a notification bar maybe, or the time. It's it's kind of a, it's not a full experience, right? So I'm curious if that's the way Apple's going to go too. Is it just going to be kind of a way? And I don't think that's bad necessarily. The amount of times I know it's such a simple thing, but like being able to see the time on my phone without having to tap the screen I'd probably use that all the time. That would probably be very useful.
Just like you could have like a giant clock face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say like always on's like and I mean, obviously on a watch, it kind of makes sense because a watch is also sort of, the watch face of your watch is an expression of you and there's like a style to it. Right. So that it always makes sense. And that's like, I've used, I have an Apple Watch Series 7. I also have an Apple Watch SE, and I love my SE a lot. But when I upgraded or when I got the Series 7 and then I went back to my SE because, doing testing and stuff, I didn't find that I missed like really any of the features necessarily that the Series 7 had, like the additional, health tracking and things like that. But I really did miss that always on display. It just kind of really made the SE feel a little less like polished. And I think that this would be awesome. And it's interesting too, because Ross also mentions that like the 10 hertz of the 13 Pros was technically good enough to do an always on display. Right. So who knows if the going down to 1 hertz is actually for an always on display, or if it's just to save battery power even more.
Absolutely. Because it is a big 1 to 10 is a big kind of multiplier jump down to, in terms of the efficiency and the saving battery and stuff like that. It's interesting you said about the SE and the Series 7. I think this is maybe one of those features, as is often the case with something Apple does, where you're like, you hear about it and you're like, that sounds stupid. Like, I have no place for that in my life. And then you get hold of it and then you're like, oh my gosh, how did I ever live without this? For me, when I got I was really uncertain about getting the iPhone 12 the iPhone 13. And I was like, oh, should I get the Pro? Should I get the regular? I wonder what the crack is with 120 hertz. And I literally picked up a phone in a shop, swiped once across the thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is revolutionary. And for some people, they don't need that, or it's not worth the trade up for them. But yeah, this is quite possibly, because even I think the always on, like I said, it makes more sense on the watch, because if you wore a standard watch, you could always see the display.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite possibly is one of those things where Apple sort of puts it in front of us, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, like how did we survive before always on iPhone screens?
I love the always on display on my Apple Watch. I use it all the time. Like I just used it a second ago. I just glanced down at my watch to see what time it is. And
are we boring you, Karen? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I just
leave.
It's more of like a habitual thing, just because I always like to know what the time is. But I would absolutely use it on my phone. I would use that all the time. If nothing else, I would just have a picture of my adorable children so I could see them all the time, all day.
Worth remembering as well, always on doesn't mean always bright. So the Series 7 has a dark or always on, and then you pick it up and it kind of comes to life. So yeah, you're talking about I think probably dimmed, but still useful kind of iPhone screen that you can glance at any time. Probably have to have some good iOS 15, 16 focus integration, because if you're on Do Not Disturb, you probably wouldn't want an always on display with notifications popping up on it and stuff like that. So the software and the hardware would kind of, I guess, work in tandem to solve that. But at the very least, even without an always on display, this would save, like Luke says, a lot of battery, which is, you're always looking for ways to improve that, and there's only so far you can go in making the battery inside the phone bigger without making the phone itself bigger. So this is one of those ways. So either way, it'd be welcome. It's pretty fun.
Anything to make battery life longer. I find even with the iPhone 13 Pro, there are some days I do not make it through the day on a single charge, which is very sad.
Yeah, and even though it's miles ahead of like some of the other phones, even like the 12, I find it much better. But yeah, I agree with you. Like if you're really heavily using it one day, like you can definitely still run out the battery before the end of the day.
What is normal for battery? I would love to. We should ask the listeners and stuff like that. So that
is a good question actually.
It is 10 to 5 Queen's Standard Time here in the UK, and I only have 34% of my battery left. And I don't think am I 2/3 of the way through my day? I got up at 7:15, 7:30ish, which was 10 hours ago, and I probably won't go to bed until like 11. So like this is definitely going to need charge. So yeah, and I'm I mostly work on a computer and stuff, so I'm not, trawling through the phone that often. So yeah, Karen, I'm the same as you. I tend not to get through a whole day
Yeah,
on
and
a
it's really bad
13
when I
Pro.
travel because first of all, I'm
Mhm.
taking a lot of pictures. I'm looking at those pictures. I'm getting directions to places.
Mhm.
I'm just Googling like places, restaurants, where, getting reviews on restaurants, see where I want to eat. And just between doing all of that, I almost never make it through a day when I'm traveling. I have to carry a battery or a charger with me, which is
Yeah, totally.
annoying.
Although I will say this, they're like, it's definitely dependent on how you use it, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there are some people I know who, we're, because of our jobs and just because of, how involved we are in tech, we obviously are all pretty, power users, I guess some people
Yeah.
might call us. But like, my mom has the new iPhone SE, which, battery life is fine, but it's not, stellar or anything, but like she makes it through a day, no problem on just that battery. Right. And it's all about how you use it. So, but yeah, if anything, like Steven said, unless we're going to be putting, bigger batteries into our phones, which I'm not completely opposed of making phones slightly bigger. That's not, you don't want them to be outrageous, obviously, but I think there's maybe some room for a little bit more thickness, perhaps, if it means a bit more battery life. But aside from that, then you just have to find ways in the other elements, right? So one being, the display takes a lot of things. The radios and stuff, that there might be some improvements to make there. Obviously, how well your software optimizes it, which is something that Apple, I think, has gotten much better at over time. Their software is quite good at optimizing as much battery life as it can out of its devices. So, in
It
fact,
got too good at
sometimes
one point and got sued by everybody, and they had to pay customers a bunch of money.
right, there was that as
yeah.
well.
The pendulum,
But like,
happy medium, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember exactly what iOS version it was, but it was it was a few years back. And I remember like I had an older phone. I think I was still running like a 6 or something at the time. And it was starting to get quite slow, I found, and like the battery was dying fairly often. But then when I updated to the new iOS, I was like, this might kill my phone. We'll have to see. It actually made the battery life slightly better because the newest version of iOS just had more optimization in it. So like there's room sometimes even for software and for optimizations on the platform to get good enough to actually like make a difference for people, especially if you're using a slightly older device. So anywhere where they can make headroom, I think anybody would welcome that. I'm curious if the 1 hertz is more of a battery play than it is an always on play, but I would welcome, like I said, I honestly, even just to be able to see the time on my iPhone without having to actually tap it or like look at it or anything, just being able to have it like on my desk or when I'm cooking or whatever, just down wherever it is and just be able to glance at it and see the time, like that would be insanely useful, and I'd probably use it all the time, even though I have a watch on my wrist. Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, I hope that maybe something comes out of this for the always on display, but if it ends up just being a battery play, I'm okay with that too. Before we move on to our last bit of the show, I'd like to tell you about our last sponsor of today, which is our friends at Henson Shaving. Now, if you're still shaving with cartridge razors, you have to stop. I'm telling everybody, cartridge razors are evil. They are overly expensive. They like to say that all their blades make for a smoother experience, but it's just not true. Henson Shaving makes the best blades, or not the best blades, the best razor out there because of having safety razor blades, which are only one blade that they have built in an aerospace machine shop that makes parts for the International Space Station. They've designed a razor that has the best shaving angle, 30 degrees. So it's very easy to shave well. You can very easily get a nice stroke across your face or your legs or wherever you're shaving, and you'll have nearly no irritation or bumps or have to worry about razor burn again. And the best part is that the blades that you're used to spending like 10, 15, 20 bucks on at the supermarket, blades for safety razors cost about 10 cents, which means you can buy them in insane bulk numbers and able to have them forever. So if you go to hensonshaving.com and see the code iMore at checkout, you'll get 100 blades for free. That's about 3 to 4 years worth of shaves for most people. Make sure you add both the razor and the blades to your cart for the discount to be applied. Once again, go to hensonshaving.com and use the code iMore at checkout. Thank you very much, Henson Shaving, for sponsoring the iMore show.
Yeah. The other iPhone 14 rumor we could talk about this week is, we already knew, but we've got some fantastic new renders of the iPhone 14 Pro from Front Page Tech. So John Prosser and Ian Zelbo, who I believe is behind the renders, congratulations, because these are fantastic. And this brings to life the purple iPhone 14, which we have heard some rumblings about. So I'm really curious to see what you guys kind of just think of these renders as a whole. And yeah, this rumored color, I think it looks absolutely fantastic.
I am 100% in on the purple iPhone 14 Pro. If that becomes a thing, I will be first in line to get it. I don't care what shade of purple it is. I don't care if it's a light purple or dark purple or medium purple. I want it. I did poll our readers, and a little less than half of our readers are interested in the purple iPhone, and the others are either don't care about color or just would not want purple at all. So I guess it's a personal thing, but what do you guys think?
I mean, they're just renders. The renders look beautiful. And I mean, I have the purple, like, iPad Air 5, and it looks beautiful. It looks really, really nice. And like, it's like a nice kind of like neutral purple. It's a bit of a gray hue to it, but it's like, it's really sharp. When the light hits it really nice, it's like this really nice kind of soft, sort of like mauvey kind of purple, I guess. And I really like it. And I'm always for more color options. I know, some people really don't care, but like, give people color options. It's nice. It's nice to have color options.
The purple was a really big hit. It was an iPhone 12 in purple, wasn't it? We got kind of midway through the cycle.
Yes.
And that was the first time Apple had put out the fresh color in the middle of the iPhone year, and everyone was like, whoa.
No, no, Product Red came out mid-year. It was like
did it?
8.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
More recent, then I guess. But yeah, the purple was hugely popular. And then with the iPhone 13, we got the Alpine and the regular green in March, I think it was. So yeah, I mean, I wonder, it's always hard to tell with these rumors and leaks and stuff, whether this is a launch color or if this is one that might turn up in that kind of midway cycle. Because I wonder if Apple is kind of committed to doing this partway through color refresh, just to give the iPhone a bit of juice, put it back in the news, and give people who are thinking about buying an iPhone, oh, hey, look, there's a new color just come out. Now's a good time to jump on the bandwagon. So
I'll be very, very upset if it's a mid-year refresh color.
Yeah,
because I am not waiting until mid-year for the new iPhone.
Yeah,
I would say this, like, I'd be interested to see what a product red, like, iPhone Pro nowadays would look like, because like a lot of the product red iPhones we've had in the past that have been like kind of the older style, right?
Or the SE, or the
and it's the iPhone, with the stainless steel and just the design and the glass on the back and everything. I'm just curious how that would look. I could feel it. It kind of goes both ways for me. I feel like it could look really good, but it also could look like too weird, because even some of the other colors, like the iPhone Pro line has always sort of had like a more muted kind of tone, whereas product red is kind of by naturally a more vibrant kind of like brighter red. It's not always the same in typical Apple for fashion. Not even their space gray color that's on everything is never the same from product to product. But I would be really curious what an iPhone Pro would look like these days in like a red color. I could see like a muted sort of red being kind of really nice. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to mute red though.
True, and without making it look pink, right? There's also that,
right. It's not a very muted
brown
color. Yeah, it would have to veer towards a brown or towards a pink.
Yeah, there was actually. It's funny because there was a rumored, it never happened, like a bronze iPhone, like last year, I think it was, when the 13 was
almost orangey.
Which looked incredible. So obviously it's not product red, but that is one that I would love to see, and that's, I think, a more vibrant color that would work. But the purple's a big hit from me. I wouldn't mind like a fifth. We always get 4 Pro colors, it seems. Yeah, you silver, gold, the graphite, space gray, whatever that's called, and one other. I would love 5, 6 even colors. Like you can always have more variety and stuff. But yeah, purple's a big hit from me. I don't know if I'd choose it over blue or green. So if it's purple instead of blue or instead of green, I might end up with a graphite or a space gray or black iPhone, whatever it's called this year.
Yeah, and about that bronze one, I will say, like, that's an interesting idea. And I mean, every color that Apple puts on their phones always looks different, even from, as I've said, from device to device. But I will say it was the iPhone 8, I believe, which was the first iPhone that had a glass back, if I remember correctly, for wireless charging.
For wireless charging,
yeah. And the gold color they used that year kind of looked more like a bronzy copper, and I didn't like it. I thought it looked odd. And it didn't really look like the gold ones we had before. But who knows? It'd be interesting to see what maybe that would look like on the newer design too.
And this render shows off a really cool look at the hole punch front-facing camera array, which, when you see it like that, I'm like, yes, but like also, what is the? I think I said this last week or maybe the week before, but what are we getting there that we didn't have? I guess it's kind of cool that the display goes all the way to the edge where the notch would have been, but it still feels. I'm sure it's one of those things, again, like the always on display. You look, you think, gosh, how did I ever use a notch on an iPhone? Like the first day you get it or whatever. But I'm still skeptical-ish about the.
It does look smaller than the notch we have now, so maybe that battery percentage could come back.
Yep.
But other than that, I don't really see the point of it. I don't see how much real estate it really frees up for other things.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's always come down to. And I think until they have the technology to put all of that stuff underneath the display, until that exists reliably and hopefully isn't, too exorbitantly expensive to implement, then we're going to be stuck with some sort of hole punchy, notchy, some sort of cutout there. I'm calling it the exclamation point, even though it's technically on its side, but I'm calling it the exclamation point. If that's what we end up getting, I still think it looks nice. Like I've also never been like a notch hater, so it's never really bothered to me that much. So I don't know. It's weird that like so many people want it to like go away, but it seems like, well, why do you want it to go away? And then when you ask them, it's like, well, because it'll just look better. And it's like, okay, I mean, that's a personal point. I would rather have it go away and it give me something, you know what I mean? Like give me something useful that I can actually use, which for a tiny bit of screen is going to be pretty hard to do. So until they have, I think, that technology to like put it underneath completely, I don't think I really care what the notch looks like, or not notch, or cutouts or whatever. I'm just glad that it does look somewhat distinct from everything out there. It's not like a hole punch just in the middle or just off to the side, which we're seeing in so many phones these days. I'm glad it still kind of like has a bit of a unique sort of iPhone look from the front, from the view. I think that's important. I think it's part of like the visual brand of the iPhone. But that's just me. I don't know. Give us a battery percentage back. That's the big one. Just give us that back. And if this allows that, then I'm going to be ecstatic. If
at least the option for it, because some people don't like to have it, which is fine. But like have it be an option. That's all.
Yeah. Let us know like how much that 1 hertz display is saving us. That's what we.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we could keep track.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm curious if this is a launch color. I am curious what they're like if they do a mid-season refresh, which I think is kind of par for the course now. We'll see. Maybe it won't stay for every year, but I think is kind of, par for the course. Once again, gets the news cycle going about iPhone again. It's like there's a lot of benefits to it. Doesn't really probably make too much of a difference on the back end for Apple to sort of produce it in a new color.
As per Karen, if the blue is the mid-season color, I'll be furious. So
see, and that's what I'm saying. Like the blue is, they've done blue twice now, and they've done green twice now too. But I'm curious if like one of those will come come back, like probably a slightly newer blue or a slightly newer green. But since they just did green last year, I feel like maybe they would do a blue as a mid-season. But I say just give us all the colors. Just give us colors.
Yeah, but Apple isn't doing what we want them to do. Apple does what Apple wants.
No.
And
Well, like I said, try a product red. Just see if it looks good. I want to know. I want to know what it looks like.
Maybe that'll be the mid-season refresh. That would be fun.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, that's what it started as, right? Like when they first did it on the iPhone 7 or 6 or whichever one it was. When they first did it, that was the first like mid-season refresh. So I am curious what it would look like again on the newer phones with the newer design and the Pro, like with the stainless steel sides and things. I'm interested what it would look like. But yeah, I don't know. I just wish that there were more color options in general for most of their devices, but maybe we'll get there. We'll see. There are rumors of the MacBook Air that might launch at WWDC says that they might have a ton of funky colors. So they might have like the iMac colors, which would be pretty interesting. But we won't know if that's happening, but maybe eventually we'll have the rainbow to our disposal.
Like Nike ID, but for Apple, and you can just go in and customize your iPhone, Mac, iPad, whatever, into any color you want, and every single iPad looks different, and it's no, Apple would never go for that. That is a terrible idea.
No.
I don't even know.
Probably not. And I mean, I guess with the popularity of skins as well, like D Brand's a popular skin maker, but there's other ones out there. But like, you can, if you really want to change up the look of your phone, there's definitely ways to do it. So at the end of the day, maybe it's just like a lot of people put cases on their phones too. So how much do you see the color if you aren't using a clear case?
I currently have a burgundy case on, but you can still see that I have a blue iPhone underneath. There's still quite a bit of the color of the phone showing. So people say, oh, I just slap on a case. It doesn't matter what color the phone is.
Yeah.
It does matter.
Yeah.
I still see it.
And I typically opt for like clear cases. That's what I typically opt for everyday carry. This one's not. The back is clear, but there is like a bit of a green because it's an iPhone 11, a green iPhone 11.
Yeah, and clear cases are nice because you can see the Apple logo too.
Yeah, but
so you're paying for the Apple logo. You want to see the Apple logo.
Yeah, exactly. So I've always liked color options because I'll typically throw a clear case to kind of like show off the color that I bought. So
I use a lot of clear cases too.
Yeah, but that's our show for today. Thanks to everybody who is listening along live. We really appreciate you. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for answering our social media polls. Take a look at that. If you ever want to reach out to us about a topic you'd like us to discuss, or you're just interested in things that we're talking about, want to throw your 2 cents in, definitely hit us up on Twitter at iMore or on Instagram at iMoregram. Karen will see all your lovely messages and we'll definitely get to them if we can. Thanks for everyone who listens not live. If you're listening to your podcatcher of choice, we really appreciate you. We wouldn't do the show without all of you listening, so thank you so much. Thanks to Jim Metzendorf, our audio editor, who makes us sound so good every week. And thanks
Jim,
for
2 weeks in a row, I remembered to record my audio. Here we go.
There you go. Steven's, well, one more week and he's off probation. I'm kidding, by the way. He's not on probation, just in case that needs to be clear. But thank you, Karen and Steven, for joining me once again. And until next week, which will only be 1 week away or 3 days away from WWDC starting. So we'll have a whole bunch to talk about, I'm sure, kind of wrapping up and reiterating all the stuff we're hoping to see at WWDC. So definitely tune in next week for that. But until then, we will say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.